Hello, everyone. So welcome to our alumni panel. The format for today's event is we have 6 students, former Honors College students, who have all graduated from UVM and gone on to do really interesting things, and so we're sort of showcasing them. We will, basically they will introduce themselves, speak for about 3 or 4 minutes, and then after that we will field some questions from all of you. We'll sort of walk around and circulate the microphone and give you a chance to talk to them and ask questions about how their experience in the Honors College served as a bridge to what they're doing today. And I'll say, on a personal note, it's precisely these stories that make working in the Honors College so incredibly rewarding. I can say this both as someone who's taught. I think it's also the same experience of all the staff, that it's really being a part of these really interesting journeys that always wind up in very different places, but are really experiences that really come together in this journey that the Honors College experience is about. So. We'll have them all introduce themselves and then give you a chance to speak to them.
Yep. Good morning. So my name's Rob. I graduated in 2013. I grew up in California and came here in 2009 without really any idea of what I wanted to do, but found pretty early in UVM I enjoyed science. I didn't come in the Honors College. I actually applied my first year and transferred into the Honors College as a second year. So came in with no major, found that I enjoyed science and ended up transferring to the College of Agriculture and Life Science and majoring in microbiology, which is an amazing program here for anybody who might be interested. And throughout college, that was a pretty restrictive major. You did a lot of classes, but there's still a lot of opportunities to do other things. So you could do research. I got involved with teaching, which I really enjoyed, and then volunteering over at the hospital. And ended up going to medical school 1 year after graduating. So I took a year and did research in Boston and then started medical school in 2013 at Harvard Medical School, and then now in my 3rd year. So it's kind of looking back at undergrad now, I think UVM did a really, really awesome job preparing me for medical school. I feel like I came in with a pretty good understanding of a lot of the principles that like biochemistry and microbiology that I learned here, and the education here is, in the moment seems good, but in retrospect is amazing. I think they teach you in a way that sticks. It's easy to problem solve, or they teach you how to problem solve, which is something that I really appreciate now. In the Honors College in particular, the focus on research was great. Learning how to do research as an undergrad is helpful, especially in academics, but also just helpful in learning how to think through problems, and that I think whatever career you end up going into is really useful, and then having that structure where you have a project that you have to complete at the end of college gives you a little bit of pressure to get it done, which is good, and it sort of forces you to set a timeline and figure out how to get things done and how to write up your project at the end. So I had an overall really amazing experience here, and I'm happy to be back.
Just testing the volume here. Okay. Good morning, everybody. My name is Dana Gully, and I graduated from the Honors College and the Rubenstein School of Environment and Natural Resources in 2010. I'm originally from Garrison, New York, in the Hudson Valley. And when I was here at UVM as an undergrad, I focused on environmental studies and political science. I had a really unique opportunity while I was here to participate in a course called the Charlie Ross Practicum for Public Service. And what it did was, it was offered through the Community University Partnerships office here on campus. And what it did was pair students like me who, I was interested in environmental policy and politics with actual state legislators to be down in Montpelier every day in the State House, actually working for the House Natural Resources and Energy Committee and applying the skills that I was learning and that I was so interested in while I was learning them. And I think that's a really unique feature here at UVM, that you can actually be focused on doing while you're learning, and that's something that was really valuable to me. I also had the opportunity to have some leadership roles on campus, and I want to mention them because that was really critical as my sort of career trajectory continued. So I was in a leadership role for Free to Be, which is the campus LGBTQA organization, as well as the Tower Society, which is the Women's Senior Honor Society. And having these sort of leadership roles on campus allowed me, when I left UVM, to be hired for a job that was looking for 3 to 5 years of experience. And I was able to use sort of this campus experience and demonstrate transferable skills to be able to kind of get into a position, which was really meaningful. So I went to work for Riverkeeper, which is a nonprofit organization that protects the Hudson River and the drinking water supply for 9 million New Yorkers. I was there for the last 5 years. It was a wonderful organization, a great place to be. But within the last year, I decided to really pivot what I was doing. I was looking around at Riverkeeper and seeing there were a lot of sort of problems that I didn't know how to solve within the organization, things that I wanted to help make the organization as effective as possible, and I didn't have those skills. So I started looking to go to business school. I looked around the country far and wide and decided to come back here to UVM for my MBA in sustainable entrepreneurship. I started that program just a month ago. And I think for me, the Honors College, besides being an incredible draw in the first place to come here and sort of that instant connection on campus, I met my best friends in the Honors College. My 3 best friends in the world, we were all in the Honors College together first year, and we lived together on and on and on. And these are people that are really important in my life. And because we were all together, we're all studying completely different things. One's a doctor, one's an English PhD, one's a master's in education, and then I'm now doing business. And we had the opportunity to come together because we were in this sort of interdisciplinary community, and we might have never met if not for the Honors College, and I'm extremely grateful for that. So there's other things, but hopefully that'll come out during questions, and I'll pass it along.
Hello, everyone. I'm Hayley Ronconi, class of 2015. I'm from LaGrangeville, New York, and came to UVM in 2011. And I'd like to joke that I came up here because of the draw for the mountains, for snowboarding, for skiing, the wonderful backyard we have with the ski resort so close to here. But I also do appreciate the Honors College, and that was a big draw for me coming here with this focus on action sports, but also this focus on education. So when I came here, I was a business administration major with a concentration in marketing and a minor in public communications. I also studied in the Honors College and loved the balance between what I was learning in the business school and what I was learning in the Honors College. Slightly different, but very well-rounded between the 2 schools. While I was here with my interest in snowboarding, I was involved in a bunch of leadership roles on campus that, similar to what Dana was saying, gave me a lot of experience that translated to a more job-related skill set that I might not have received otherwise during school. So specifically, I was a leader on the UVM Ski and Snowboard Club. I helped plan events, and I also was a marketing coordinator for the club. I was also a member of the snowboard team my entire time here at school, which allowed me the opportunity to travel, to snowboard, and to meet other people in the industry that I was hoping to later on, after college, work in. Additionally, my multi-passion for action sports, but also marketing, led me to focusing my thesis on snowboarding, but a more marketing look at snowboarding. So I did a marketing research study on the gender implications in snowboarding and how brands could focus on communicating better with the female segment. So my title of my thesis was Gender Differences in Snowboarding, an Empirical Analysis. My thesis then led me to pursue an internship at marketing agency Fuse. Fuse is in Winooski here, so very close, and Fuse focuses on action sports and millennial marketing. So through my internship and through my thesis work, I pursued this focus on action sports and marketing, and later on, my internship at Fuse led me to a full-time position there. So currently, I'm working as a brand strategy account manager at Fuse. We focus on action sports programs for a number of different clients that we work with, some of them being Mountain Dew, some of them being Burton Snowboard. We've done some work with them. So some great projects we're working on in this sort of passion of mine of marketing, but also action sports. So through my thesis, I really am grateful to the Honors College because it allowed me to explore these passions of mine, both a personal passion in action sports, but also a more academic passion for marketing, and then allowed me to get to where I am today working in this field that I truly love. So definitely appreciative.
Good morning, everybody. My name is Allison Neil, and I'm currently a professor at Norwich University. I got my Bachelor of Arts in Biology at UVM and graduated from the Honors College in 2009, and I minored in Spanish. And then I also got a second degree from UVM. I got my PhD in 2014. And really, I'm telling you some of that stuff up front because that path was something that I kind of got set off on through my experience in the Honors College. So when I was an undergraduate, I participated in a lot of different things on campus. I played some intramural sports, especially volleyball and broomball. I was in Feel Good, so I cooked a lot of grilled cheese sandwiches on Friday mornings. Well, Fridays at noon, I guess. I also was part of the Honors College Leadership Council. I studied abroad in Spain, which is where I got a lot of the credits for doing a Spanish minor. And so I participated in a lot of different things. I tried a lot of different things while I was at UVM, and then UVM gave me the opportunity to try a lot of those different things. But the one that ended up actually being the most influential in terms of where my career went after that was my honors thesis. And I can tell you that when I was sitting in your seats, I did not think that was going to be true. I thought research sounded really scary. I couldn't understand why on earth we had to do this to be in the Honors College. I was like, I'm good at school. I should be able to be in the Honors College without doing research. And so I kind of shied away from it. And that was true all the way up through when I was a junior and when I was sitting in that junior class where we had to write our thesis proposal. And I was still terrified of research, and I still didn't want to do it. And it was so true that I dropped out of that class. And I thought that was it for me in the Honors College. But that same semester, I happened to be taking a parasitology course. You know, parasites, like those icky things that make you sick, and everyone thinks they're kind of gross and pretty darn creepy. Well, I found my passion in that class. So I was taking that class, and in the laboratory section, we actually got the opportunity to participate in some ongoing research. So this wasn't one of those labs where you're just doing a demonstration to see something that we already know about the world. We were actually participating in the professor's research. And suddenly I was like, wait a minute, this is what research is? This isn't scary, this is really doable, and it's actually pretty cool. So at that point I approached him and I said, I've already kind of dropped out of the Honors College, but I'm thinking that maybe this research thing might not be so scary, so could I try it out? And he said, absolutely. And he helped me apply for some funding. I got a grant to do research over the summer. I flew out to California and caught a bunch of lizards and looked at the parasites in their blood, and I was hooked. I ended up coming back to the Honors College. I never really left the Honors College. I just dropped that one class. But I ended up writing that thesis proposal. I did my thesis, and I got so sucked into that project that I stayed on and did a PhD, and I'm still doing that research now. And so that's how I ended up as a professor, and it's because UVM gave me all these opportunities to try a bunch of things, and the Honors College pushed me really far outside my comfort zone. They pushed me to think about doing research, which I wouldn't have otherwise, and they pushed me to think about asking bigger questions. So I'm really appreciative of that, and for all of you guys who are new students, I would encourage you to be open to that. Not necessarily just research. I mean, I think research is a great part of the Honors College, but be open to all of the different opportunities that UVM is giving you to try new things, because the thing that I was dreading the most ended up being the one that changed the way that my life went after that and shaped my career. So be open to that. There's a lot of possibilities here, and just know that what you love now might not be the thing that's right for you in the future. So look for other things that you also love.
Good morning, everyone. My name is Max Holman. I was born in Washington, D.C. and grew up in Chevy Chase, Maryland. I graduated here in 2013 from the Honors College and the College of Arts and Sciences. I was a double major in history and economics with a minor in political science, so very broad liberal arts education, which I enjoyed. Throughout my 4 years here, I really had no idea what I wanted to do. I played sports in high school, but sort of in the spring of my senior year of high school, when sports were done, I rented all 6 seasons of The Sopranos, which my parents had watched, and sort of watched it all the way through and became sort of obsessed with television. And when I started freshman year here, my freshman year seminar in the Honors College Dean Schnell, and I learned that she was also a fan of The Sopranos and another HBO show called The Wire, and we talked about sort of the power of storytelling and narrative, and one of sort of the topics in the first year seminar in the Honors College was about sort of narrative and how we construct our reality around storytelling. So I became very interested in sort of film and television, but didn't really consider it a career, and took a handful of film classes here, but hadn't thought about it as sort of a career path after college, and was always a big proponent of the liberal arts education. So, took history and economics and really enjoyed it. A couple other activities I was involved with here were Colleges Against Cancer, which is a nonprofit organization associated with the American Cancer Society. We planned a big event each year called Relay for Life, and raise money for the American Cancer Society. I was in a fraternity. I was an admissions tour guide. So did a variety of different things here. And senior year, I started to think about, what I wanted to do. And I think I have a sort of unique perspective because it wasn't one honors college class necessarily that led me, to choose entertainment, but sort of the mentorship that I got in the honors college drove me this way. So senior year, I met with Dean Schnell and Abu Rizvi, who was the former dean of the honors college, and sort of just had conversations with them about what I wanted to do, talked about my interests, how I sort of saw film and television as a possible career path, and they connected me with a bunch of alumni in New York and Los Angeles who were in careers in entertainment and marketing, just so I could start to have those conversations and see what other people were doing from the University of Vermont. Ended up getting connected with an alumni named Joe Cohen, who's the head of the television department at a company called Creative Artists Agency, which is a huge talent and sports agency based in Los Angeles. And I had a few conversations with him, talked about my interests, how much sort of I love television and film, and he said, come out to LA, I'll set you up with an interview with HR and we'll go from there. So I flew out to LA right after graduating, interviewed at CAA, ended up getting a job there. I worked there for about 2.5 years in the television department, in the TV lit department. So we represented writers, directors, actors, producers who were working on scripted television projects. Really enjoyed that experience, but always envisioned myself being on the more sort of creative side of the industry. So about a year ago, I transitioned over to HBO. I now work in the drama programming department at HBO. We work on all the hour-long shows, basically. So Game of Thrones, The Leftovers. We have a new show called Westworld coming out in a few weeks, which you should all watch. It's really good. And it's great. It's half the day is sort of like being in an honors college, English or film seminar. I read a lot of scripts, watch, episodes of things. I'm the first person to evaluate projects that come into us. So writers come and pitch things, send us scripts. I'm the first one to read it and then write up my comments. So sort of all my honors college classes and history and econ classes have all contributed to that. It's sort of an analytical, creative job, and yeah, it's great. So I think, if there's one takeaway from my experience, it's that it's not just the classes, but also the mentorship you get here. I wouldn't have moved to LA and gotten the job in entertainment without sort of just these conversations with my professors from the honors college, and you don't necessarily get that in the other schools here. So.
Do you mind taking me on?
Oh yeah.
Thank you. Hi. Can you hear me? Okay. So my name is Zach Schmall. I graduated from the Honors College in 2013. I was a double major when I was here. Accounting and statistics were my two interests. I'd been a business major from the beginning. I added the statistics about halfway through. And I'd been in the Honors College from the beginning. And what specifically stood out to me about the Honors College, and actually what's influencing my academic pursuits now, is that in our freshman seminar, The Pursuit of Knowledge, we had to draw from a wide variety of sources, and you would read different disciplines, different ways of knowing, and sometimes you'd agree with it, sometimes you wouldn't, sometimes you'd be confused by it, But because we were coming at it from so many different perspectives and really a truly liberal arts model, I thought this is pretty cool, and I enjoyed it while I was here, but I didn't really do too much with my liberal arts while I was here. Obviously, I was an accountant and statistics major, so, but then when I graduated, I went to work in insurance. I'm an insurance underwriter now in surplus lines insurance, which is kind of high risk and non-traditional insurance products. But I started thinking, I really want to think more about these big ideas that really started while I was here in the Honors College. And so from there, this past May, I graduated with a master's degree in apologetics, which is a branch of theology from Houston Baptist University. Now I'm getting my PhD in humanities from Faulkner University. So it's really kind of come full circle back to the humanities. It was the first class, my first morning at UVM was the pursuit of knowledge. And now I'm back in the humanities. And I think that's what's really special about the Honors College to me. I did research as well, like everyone else, and I think that's really valuable. But for me, when you can learn critical thinking at such an early point in your college career, I think that's really going to benefit you the way through, because you have to think about large ideas. You have to think about, what the consequences are of thinking in certain ways, and what's the way I'm going to pursue knowledge. And so I really thought, of all my time in the Honors College, and actually in my senior year, I was a teaching assistant in one of the sophomore seminars, because I thought it's really interesting to be a part of, and to come back and contribute was a nice feeling at that time. So that's where my PhD is hopefully leading, somewhere back into a classroom where I can teach about liberal arts, and most likely in the history realm right now. But so that's about my story of Honors College.
Great, thank you. So now this is an opportunity for you all to ask questions. I have 2 microphones, and does anyone have a question for our panelists? Dean Schnell's going to take the other one. Okay.
Mind turning me off?
I do too. Great.
This question.
Takes-
Hello?
Yeah, takes a minute to warm.
This question's for Rob. Like many parents of kids who came in mostly undecided what they wanted to do, you came in mostly undecided and ended up at Harvard Medical School, so not too shabby. But can you talk about your progression through your coursework and your learning, and what things kind of helped you along the path of figuring out what your passion was and where you wanted to focus?
Sure. So I came in my first semester. I think I might have had a major declared, but I was really undecided. And medicine really for me wasn't on the. I had never thought about doing medicine before I came here. I thought I really didn't have any clue as to what I wanted to do. I ended up taking a science class my sophomore year, B Core 12, which is like one of the basic biology classes, and really loved it. And from there, sort of looked around campus to see who I could find as a mentor. And like everybody has said, the mentorship here is amazing. And so I ended up finding a mentor, Dr. Doug Johnson, who's a microbiologist here, who is a researcher himself, but also works with pre-med students, and talked to him about science and a little bit about medicine at that point, but sort of still was a little undecided, and ended up transferring to microbiology, which he was the advisor for, and I ended up transferring to that department in large part because of him. And that summer, I took classes to catch up. So I hadn't taken chemistry my first year, and that was a sort of a basic first-year requirement that a lot of people do. And so I had felt like I was a little behind. Like in science majors, you hear you have to start from day one to be a science major. And so I took chemistry that summer to catch up. Took a couple more classes my sophomore year to sort of catch back up. But he was a great advisor. He sort of helped me choose which classes to take when, how not to overload your schedule too much, because you can fit science into every block, but you also want to make sure you have enough time to give each class a right amount of time. And he also was helpful in terms of setting me up with a lab to work in and setting me up with other opportunities on campus. So I started working in a research lab my sophomore year here, and then switched labs and changed my junior year to another lab. The other thing that he helped me with is, so I studied abroad the fall semester of my junior year in South Africa, and that was also a little challenging, I thought, because as a science major, a lot of the classes are year-long progressions, and it was challenging to find a semester where you could step back and sort of take yourself out of that year-long progression, but it's doable. And I studied HIV in Durban, and sort of HIV management, in particular cancer associated with HIV. And so for me, that was a really powerful experience and really worthwhile, and helped sort of guide me as to what I wanted to do with my career. And he helped a lot with sort of figuring out how to get that to work in my schedule. And then junior and senior year are where you have a lot more time to sort of pick your electives within your major and figure out which classes to take. And at that point, I was pretty set on going to medical school. So I got more and more set as the more I learned about it. And he helped me figure out what classes would be useful for medical school, how to best prepare for the MCAT and the applications, and sort of go from there. The research lab I worked with Dr. George Wellman, and he also was an amazing mentor in terms of helping with research and with learning how to do a project myself. So I had a lot of really great guidance. That's pretty much the best answer.
Max mentioned an association with an alumni to help him make. Did you others of you benefit from the alumni network?
At Fuse, one of our partners of our organization was an alumni from UVM, so he came and spoke to one of my business classes actually about marketing and action sports marketing and kind of what an agency in an action sports marketing space really looked like and what that meant. So through that connection, I think that was an added benefit, me being a UVM student, looking for an internship. So I think that definitely helped me have somewhat of a leg up when I applied for an internship.
And I'll just say quickly, I don't think it's a diss to UVM to say if you're a high school student and you want to pursue a career in film, UVM might not be the first school you think of. But my experience is an example that, there are alumni in every single industry from this school. And, the fact that the head of the television department at one of the biggest, talent agencies in the world is a Vermont alumni is, you can get anything here. I think it's just sort of taking control and, like I said, using the resources like the professors and the deans here to talk about what you want to do and find those alumni is very valuable.
My question is about studying abroad and the challenges specifically of fulfilling your honors requirements.
So I found that, as he said, it's a little bit hard to figure out where that study abroad experience fits in, and that's where your advisors come in often. So the Honors College does add a number of classes to your program, but that doesn't mean that it's not doable to fit in anything else you want to do. So for me, I also studied abroad during the fall of my junior year, which also as a science major, it helped with avoiding breaking up some of those year-long progressions of courses that I needed to take. And in terms of being an honors college student, it meant that I was away during the fall of my junior year, but I was back during the spring so I could start thinking about my thesis proposal and my research at that point. So I think it is a little bit more tricky being in the honors college, and I think that's compounded if you're a science major, but considering there are at least 2 of us on this panel that were able to make it work, it's definitely doable. It's just you want to start thinking about it early, and you want to start talking to people. I think that's kind of a theme that's coming up, right? Talk to the people on campus about how you can make things work for you, and it's very doable.
I totally agree. Thinking about things early and thinking about how you can get things to fit in your schedule is really helpful. I used that summer before leaving to start doing research and start thinking about my project, and had this semester to think a little bit about what I would do, and when I came back was able to hit the ground running, and it was it was helpful to be able to get going with my research project, and I felt like I had plenty of time.
Can I also just say that I'm not sure. Is it working? Maybe it is. We've also been working with, at the moment we have a kind of partnership with the University of Glasgow, so that students can be abroad in the second semester of their sophomore year and fulfill honors college credits. So they take a seminar in Glasgow at the University of Glasgow called the Scottish Enlightenment. It fills their second sophomore seminar. Our first group of students did that just this past spring. So it's a relatively new partnership. We have another group going this year in the spring, and but we recruit out of the first year class for that. And science students can go on that because Glasgow has worked out a way for them to get the second half of organic chemistry there. So we can, they're also, I think we're also working out some things with our engineering school. So that's a particular partnership that we're working on so that more students have an opportunity to go abroad. It's just at Glasgow right now. We have that it's called the Principia program. And we do that with a consortium of honors colleges in this country. So it's not just us that are doing that. We have a consortium that we work with. But we're looking for opportunities like that so that more students can get abroad and also get an honors education abroad. Both Allison was doing language stuff. Rob did this sort of amazing experiential stuff that tied right into his interest in medicine. But you can't always, it's sometimes a little bit hard to sometimes find those programs that are absolutely perfect. And that give you that kind of real rigorous experience that a lot of the students want when they go abroad. They don't just want to go abroad. They also want some academic rigor where they are. And not every abroad program does that. Sometimes all of the learning kind of happens most of the learning will happen outside of the classroom, and there's nothing wrong with that. But a lot of our students also want this sort of really rigorous learning in the classroom. And so trying to find those programs. And so we're making some headway on that so that more of our students feel like there aren't impediments to their going abroad. And it's just interesting that the two science students are the ones who went abroad on this panel, and that is not usually what you find. But you found a way to make it work, both of you, and that's so awesome because it's usually like the Spanish major or the English major or the econ major, who find like no problem going abroad. But so yeah, we encourage it for sure with our students. Anyway, I've said enough.
Does anybody do study abroad, like in the summer during a break? I mean, is that an option to not have a problem with classes?
Yes, they do. And in fact, Sheena at the back has all kinds of great opportunities for students to apply for nationally. There are some national fellowship opportunities for students to do abroad study in the summer, critical language scholarships and other things. And so we tell students, yes, summer is always an option. And if you're thinking summer and you're going to study in a field that's really sort of very central to what you're thinking of doing yourself, maybe you're thinking about going into national security, or you're going to use this language for a career, especially if it's sort of related to State Department stuff, or then we send them to Sheena, or they will find Sheena because she's around and she's publicizing this stuff pretty widely. And not just for students in the Honors College, for all students at UVM. Sheena and Lily's office both are very outward facing. They're not just for Honors College students. But yeah, so there are some funded opportunities as well for summer, and lots of other summer programs.
Can I just add something to that? I also think there are a lot of programs that are travel classes through UVM. So even if you're not studying abroad, studying at another university, there are programs at UVM that often take place during those breaks, like the summer breaks and sometimes spring break, that would allow you to travel to another country or to somewhere else in the US to do a really hands-on activity. So that kind of falls in that category as well.
I'm looking at all of you, and you're so impressive and amazing, and trying to think about what you were like when you're like my student right now, who's a little unsure, definitely feeling like everybody around here is smarter than she is, and just trying to just wonder whether you can remember back to that place of what some of those first steps you made to get to be these really amazingly successful people you are now.
I was there. As I kind of mentioned in my introduction to myself, I didn't think that research sounded like a doable thing, so that was a big one. You know, being in the Honors College was intimidating to me because there were classmates that were starting research in their sophomore year and like going abroad and doing these internships and all this stuff, and I was a little slower to start at that. And I also came in as an undeclared major, and so there was a lot to figure out, and I think just putting yourself out there, you have to keep putting yourself out there and trying things, and eventually you find something that you really love, and the more classes you take, the more experience you gain and the more confidence you gain. But absolutely, yeah, that was me as a first-year student. I thought I was not very outgoing. I was very shy. I wasn't very confident, and I didn't have any idea what I wanted to do with my future, so that's absolutely fine, and probably a good thing because it might mean you're more open to the possibilities. It did for me, yeah. So the question is, did the Honors College specifically help? It did for me only because I mean, maybe not only. For me, it helped because I found that I had a real passion for research, and I would never have tried research if it weren't for the encouragement of the Honors College. The Honors College kind of pushed me to try things that I wouldn't have otherwise. Because as I mentioned, I was pretty shy and I didn't know what I wanted to do. So being pushed to try different things helped me a lot, and a lot of that was the Honors College.
I would say just a brief response to that. I absolutely, in fact, it was right around this time, my first year, that I was thinking, oh my gosh, what have I gotten myself into? Everybody around me is so smart and so just on top of everything, and oh boy. I remember I sat down at the time with the former dean of the Honors College, Bob Peppermint Taylor, and had a little bit of a meltdown, frankly. And so I would say what really helped me to transition out of that space was this, again, I'm going to come back to community, really talking to my classmates and realizing everybody's figuring it out. And I was making a lot of assumptions about sort of where everybody was. And so this sort of sense of community that you have in the Honors College, I think, is really one of the most unique things about it, because you just have this sort of built-in residential element. So I would just suggest to your student sort of an openness to maybe not assuming that everybody else has it all figured out, and sort of talking to their classmates and sort of figuring out the ways in which they're kind of in it together and on the same page.
I'll quickly add too, so I wasn't a very good student in high school, so I was also really nervous coming to college and sort of trying to figure out how to be a student here. One thing that the Honors College has, everybody seems to really enjoy what they're doing here, and they have fun in class. It's not like this culture of just being stressed out and like all these hurdles you have to clear. It's more like this is a fun challenge and I get to learn, and being around people like that was cool. It wasn't as intimidating as I thought it would be. It was more just, this is fun and I can find something here that I enjoy, and then it's easier to study if you enjoy what you're doing. So.
Who can I turn to? Oh, sorry. You guys rock. You really do. As a parent, I am overjoyed to hear how articulate and successful the six of you are. I would like to just talk a bit about graduate school, and if you could give us a little insight of the honors program, how that impacts, if at all, applying to graduate school and successes. Thanks.
I mean, I can talk to that a little bit. I mean, I don't know specifically, did that make a decision of letting me in or not, but I do know several of my recommendations were written by Honors College professors who I was a teaching assistant with. And so I mean, we sound like a broken record, but really it's the connections you make, and the people who I spent time with who knew what I wanted to do with my life and knew I want to find my way back to a classroom someday, who were willing to help write me recommendations that all have got me into 2 programs so far. So, I mean, I don't have a letter specifically that says because you're in the honors college, you had into our program, but it definitely didn't hurt, and it doesn't look bad on your application either.
I would say that for me, it was really that because of my experiences in the Honors College and leadership roles on campus, I felt sort of a freedom not to go, and I'm not suggesting everyone who goes straight into graduate school is doing so because they don't feel this way, but I felt a freedom not to go straight into graduate school. I felt a sort of freedom to go out into the world and look for a job and felt like I could find something. And that was really powerful for me because if I had gone straight to graduate school, which I was considering, I was going to go to law school. And here I am 6 years later. Never in a million years could you have told me that I would want to be, pursuing business and sustainable business. But my sort of work experience led me there. So for me, it's sort of an indirect answer to your question, but just sort of, the opportunity to not go straight to graduate school was sort of what I felt like I gained from my experience in the Honors College, which was my path. And for sure, some people know exactly what they're interested in doing, and they do it, and that's phenomenal. But that, that wasn't me. So.
I have kind of a different perspective on this because I actually have sat on panels that select graduate students to come into a program. And I can tell you, at least in the sciences, one thing that we look for that makes for a really strong candidate, especially if you're looking at a PhD program coming right out of a bachelor's as opposed to doing a master's first, is research experience. And the Honors College asks you to do a thesis your senior year. So you have that structure of how graduate school looks. And when a panel is looking at a student for a position in graduate school, they're looking at that and they're saying, okay, this student not only did well academically, but they actually know what they're getting themselves into when they're doing research, and they know what a thesis looks like. And that's a really big benefit for you on one of those committees.
Medical school is a little different for admissions, and I think every school is a little different in terms of what they look for, but I think the thing at the Honors College that was really great is everybody, no matter what they're going into, is really pushing themselves, and you can learn from other students. Like a lot of the people in my year were doing, if they were doing not just medicine, but law or other graduate programs, like we're doing all sorts of amazing things, and it sort of helped me realize other opportunities I could get involved with, and so I thought that was really the most beneficial part.
Hi, so I'd like to echo what a lot of folks have said about you guys. It's impressive to see you. As a parent of a first year in the Honors College, I'd ask you to think back, what are some of the things that your parents did that were the best to support you? Because I know I'm wondering what to do, so I bet some others are too.
I could make this one short and sweet. I got a lot of care packages. So your students love care packages, whether it's fresh baked brownies or anything you could send them that reminds them of home and the support they have, the love they have at home is really awesome. So care packages, don't forget it.
Care packages are definitely a good one. I think for me, my parents took a step back and really let me be independent, and that was helpful. So they didn't call me. If they didn't hear from me for like a month, they probably would have called me. But for the most part, they let me call them. So they were there to answer questions when I needed help. But other than that, they kind of let me, I could have failed some classes and they wouldn't have known. They weren't looking over my shoulder all the time, and that helped me learn independence. And it's hard, I'm sure it was hard for them. Like, as I'm thinking about having a family myself, I'm like, I don't know how my parents ever did that. But yeah, taking a step back in college, I think, and as a professor now seeing students, the students I see struggling the most are the ones whose parents are most involved, because the students aren't being allowed to succeed or fail on their own.
My mom still calls me twice a day, so I don't know what you're talking about, but I do think just openness, if they are pursuing something non-traditional, just being supportive and open to it is always helpful. but I'm not exaggerating. She does.
Did you ever wish you had gone somewhere else freshman year?
Yes. I actually sent in a few transfer applications, and I didn't end up going anywhere else, even though I got into a few places. So hopefully that's a good sign that I did think about it. But it's an amazing school, and the Honors College is helpful. So I encourage everyone to stay.
This is probably going to sound terrible, but UVM wasn't my first choice. And I got into my first choice, and I ended up coming to UVM because UVM gave me a better financial package. And I say that confidently at this panel because I don't have any regrets. But my first semester, I was kind of like, oh man, I could have gone to Mount Holyoke, right? I got into Mount Holyoke. I loved Mount Holyoke, but they didn't give me enough money. But I don't think I would have had the same opportunities there that I did here. And one of the reasons I was interested in Mount Holyoke was because it was smaller. And I was afraid that at this big university, I would get lost. But partially being in the Honors College gave me the feeling of a small university, and I realized that after about a year, it took a while. The first semester was still a little bit rough, but after about a year, I realized that I still had that small community. And the other, I feel like there was another point I was going to make there, but the other thing is at a smaller school, I don't think I would have had the opportunities in research that I did here. Because you're at a bigger school, there's just more of a diversity of opportunities, and I'm glad that I came to a larger school, even though that wasn't necessarily where I first pictured myself.
Yeah, I mean, I can actually echo a lot of your story. I also had another first choice, and the financial package here was a lot better. So I came to UVM. I didn't go to Dartmouth. But the Honors College was actually a major pull for me in my decision, because I remember coming up to some admitted student visit days and meeting some of the people in the Honors College and talking to some of the faculty and what this all was about. And I just remember it was so, I mean, as you probably could tell from earlier, I'm a big ideas guy. And so having a class where we can really interact with so many different fields and so many different classmates who are from all kinds of different majors, that was really appealing for me. So that certainly made my decision a lot easier. And I mean, like you said, I don't regret it at all. I think it worked out really well.
Okay, looking back at your UVM experience, just answer the simple question. Advice to the students here, make sure you blank.
I would say two things. One, take advantage of all the different opportunities on campus for leadership roles or things outside of just the academic pursuit. It really gives you invaluable experience that really then can make a huge difference when it comes to applying for a job when you graduate. That's really a powerful opportunity. And then I would say, just sort of based on what you were talking about, take a course, especially if your student hasn't done that sophomore seminar yet, that's outside of what you're focused on, and sort of challenge yourself to take a course that's completely different. And I think I say that because I didn't do that. But in hindsight, that's a really great opportunity to learn something completely different, because you're getting lots of whatever it is your specific focus is. So, use that to really challenge yourself to think outside the box and do other things as well.
I would add, so make sure you find something you're passionate about. I think what makes your experience all the more valuable here at UVM, but going into life beyond college, is having something you're passionate about to dedicate your effort, your time, your focus, whether it be in your career or whether it be in your lifestyle. So if it's that work-life balance, there's something that you really love spending your time doing outside of work. Just find that passion and make your life committed to that passion so that you can have a well-rounded life beyond college as well. And I think finding that passion can come through getting involved, whether it's getting involved with the numerous organizations we have on campus here, it's taking courses outside of your comfort zone maybe, not in your major, that might surprise you and might be that true passion that you've been looking for. I think it's just being open, getting involved, and exploring your options.
Two quick things. I would say live in Burlington one summer at least. No matter what you do. I worked at a golf course here one summer. It was the best summer of my life. The weather is perfect here over the summer. So, and more importantly, do not be afraid to approach your professors and deans. Set meetings with Lisa and Ian. As I said earlier, like, my deans and professors were the reasons I got my job. So even if it's not about a class, set a general meeting with them just to talk about what you're interested in. They're tapped into the alumni network. They talk to the development people who know all the alumni around the country. Set those meetings early on, develop those relationships, because that will be very helpful in the long run.
I would add also be proactive about things. So there's a lot of opportunities here, but sometimes students have to be the one to take the first step to contact somebody or show up to a meeting or whatever it may be. And don't be afraid to sort of put yourself out there and just go try things. And I think that you'll find a lot of opportunities open themselves up that way.
Never too early, I don't think. But I don't think you should feel necessarily a pressure if there isn't somebody automatically that you're feeling drawn to. But if you are, and it's really easy to feel drawn to these guys, I can say, do it, absolutely.
So I think we have time for one more question.
Let's get one student question before the panel's over.
Or not. Well, please join me in thanking our panelists today.